we saved the best for the last. And I'll say that even though a lot of my friends came before, or at least one of the best for the last. So I want to introduce my friend and colleague, James Halt from PALCapital. James, welcome to Digital Week Online. Thanks for bearing with us as we kind of worked our way through the program today. Just to maximize your time, I'm going to hand the microphone to you, let you introduce everyone else, and let you take it from here. So James, please have at it. All yours.
Thank you so much, Gordon. And I enjoyed the previous session, so thank you. So we have a session here to talk about how blockchain is enabling corporate innovation. We have three different angles on that discussion, which I think will be really interesting. So what I want to do is quickly get people to introduce themselves and their companies in 1 minute or less, so that we don't get hung up in that stage. And then open a discussion to talk about what's happening and how each of these companies is working with corporations and enterprises to start to bring around the changes that that blockchain enables in business, society, and politics. Medha, you want to start?
I'd be happy to. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for inviting us on to talk to you today about this exciting topic. I'm Medha Parlikar, one of the co-founders and the CTO of Casper Labs, and we're the builders of the Casper protocol. And we like to think about blockchain a little bit differently in terms of building the next generation of enterprise-grade blockchain projects that don't have to pay a balancing act between security, scalability, and decentralization. And we really take the focus that the next set of enterprise-grade blockchain projects will treat blockchain protocol as a trust layer, as a component of a larger application architecture. And we built a protocol that will snap seamlessly into a lot of these existing application architectures that are already quite prevalent in Web 2 and in cloud today.
Fantastic. Garrett? By the way, Garrett, great background. I'm having envy, by the way.
It matches my shirt.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks for having me on. I'm Garrett, the co-founder of Nodal, and we build a decentralized wireless network using millions of smartphones to crowdsource connectivity for IoT devices. And really what we're doing is enabling the first time to have a decentralized computer, that is the blockchain, to interact with the physical world. And so we do that by linking our networking stack with the ability to connect trillions of devices to the internet. So that's Nodal, and we're doing some short things which I can talk about for COVID also, using our technology for enterprise to get people back to work. So super excited to be on.
And I think in an hour, there'll actually be a demo of the MetaMe platform, which I think is a venture with part of your technology, Garrett.
Great.
And Manuel Ferrari, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
All the way down in Argentina?
Very well. Here is late. Well, as in New York. Well, I'm co-founder of Manuel Chain, which is the first DeFi for Bitcoin protocol running on a Bitcoin sidechain, which is called RSK. We have built the first stablecoin backed 100% only by Bitcoin. And it has other tokens as a Bitcoin on steroids, as I call it, which is meant for Bitcoin holders. So maybe MicroStrategy will like to think about that.
Thank you, Manuel. So Medha, one of the things that I'm realizing when I'm representing companies that are based on distributed ledger and we're going to corporations, and the platforms all think they have the greatest and latest idea, and and it's self-evident to everybody. And when I get to the enterprises, they look at me and they're not even sure that they understand what problem it is that I solve. So what's your experience and what's your vision there?
Gosh, my experience is that, enterprises are really their heads down on, they're going to look at it two different ways, right? They will make a technology change if it does one of two things. Either it's going to increase profits or revenue, or it's going to reduce risk or operational cost. So you have to frame blockchain in that lens, right? Either you're going to use this technology to open up new opportunities, markets, or value propositions for your customers, or you're going to use this technology to reduce your risk or operational costs, right? And so if you frame it in that, look at it in that frame, then you will start speaking the language that they really understand, right? They're not going to understand decentralization. It's not germane to them. It's not important to them, right? What they care about are really those two factors.
So Garrett and Manu, I'm very happy if you guys chime in when you hear something that's said that resonates to you, or you just have a comment. If there's a flow between you guys and I disappear, that's okay. So Garrett, could you take the baton from there in terms of dealing with enterprises?
Sure. I mean, the most difficult challenge we have is getting over that blockchain fear. In a lot of cases, mentioning blockchain actually kills the conversation. And people actually recommend that we don't talk about it. So it's a bit of a challenge to show that there are some things that blockchain can just do better. So whether it's for accountability or for scalability, we're doing a lot of work with security. So actually securing the IoT devices that we deploy in enterprise settings, and using technologies like blockchain is just the best, most scalable, most secure way to do some of these things. When you mention that big companies can actually take control over their privacy, so they don't have to trust other companies like Google or whatnot for their privacy and security, they get pretty excited. So it's a battle, but we think that they're slowly starting to understand the benefits of blockchain and new decentralized technologies.
And Manu, it's interesting. I always tell people that you don't really need blockchain as much in America as you do in Latin America or Africa. So can you talk about how you find an impact?
I think it's a big world, and it's really different realities all over the world. So I think maybe in Europe, in United States, in civilized countries, maybe decentralization, immutability, censorship resistance may not be so important. But in regions like in Latin America and in several countries in the world, I think censorship resistance, immutability, the properties that Bitcoin has as a financial layer is extremely important, especially when you cannot trust institutions in several countries. So I think there is a room, there is people like, as I was talking, MicroStrategy is interested in Bitcoin. I think there is several corporations. I was listening to the founder of MicroStrategy telling how he has lost millions of dollars in Argentina because of changes in the rules. So I think there is a room, and there is quite a lot of interest in, as it has been shown, in several firms to understand how Bitcoin can help in these kind of countries.
So when I founded PALCapital in 1996, the premise was that I was going to work with companies that were going to leverage and benefit from the digitization of information. And back then, coming from classic investment banking, everyone said to me, "That's crazy. That's not a business." Right? And now I explain that that's my business, and people say to me, "That's crazy. It's every business," right? And I kind of look at blockchain and I don't look at blockchain, I look at distributed ledger as this new language, this new way to do business, this new way to communicate and store and protect as the same kind of concept, right? So right now, when you're first approaching the companies, and let's go through, whoever wants to grab it first, when you're first approaching companies, what is it that you can tangibly do for them that makes a difference? Anyone? Medha, you want to jump in, or Manuel?
Yeah, I can. I can start off with that. So, with respects to using, public permissionless blockchain, the big tangible difference really is around adding a layer of trust to your data, right? So that's one thing. The other thing you can definitely do that are interesting is you can tokenize things and make them tradable. So as an example, we have a client that is building, it seems kind of not obvious, but they're building an employee incentive program, basically for, and they want to actually go to market with this as an offering where if you pick up an extra shift, you get some reward points, right? And typically it's very hard to set up incentive programs in large organizations or in manufacturing organizations where you can incentivize a variety of different behaviors and actually operationalize that, right? But blockchain technology makes it really, really easy for people to do that. It's like, hey, if I pick up your shift, I get some rewards over here that I can then trade in maybe for company perks for another day off or something else. And they can create this micro economy that's really built around employee performance. This is just like one example a unique use case. Other use cases are interesting things around trust layer around reputation, right? So there's some very interesting things you can do about individual reputation and the trust layer that blockchain brings, as an example, a couple of examples.
Well, an example of how companies actually are using, for example, stable coins in Argentine. They are using a dollar peg stable coin for trading, for selling services and protecting from inflation. For example, in Venezuela, it's already some people selling apartment through firms in Argentina too. So even with a lot of restrictions on foreign currency, this allows many business to thrive. So I think the adoption will take time. Most probably will start with people as with Bitcoin, but with time, I think most firms will be interested on using these new technologies.
Yeah, I mean, what we've noticed is that with trustless systems, the risk of a financial transaction decreases significantly. And if you have decreased risk in a transaction, you can vastly reduce the transaction fees. This is why some people predict that almost all stock trades and whatnot will go on chain simply because of the risk is reduced, especially when you're talking about international transactions. What we've been looking at is using such technologies for the transaction of data. So actually paying to connect a device that may only use a megabyte of data a month. And with existing systems, if I had to connect a device in India that only used 1 megabyte a month, say it was a small IoT device or a sensor, you would never be able to do that with existing systems. I can't swipe a credit card and pay a tenth of a cent in a foreign country. But with decentralized and blockchain technologies, you can do that. And that's really exciting. And that opens up a lot of business cases where today you had companies focusing on the very high end. You look at traditional credit cards, for example. You had Visa, MasterCard going after all of the high retail transactions. And then Square came along and found a way to attack the long tail. And we believe that trustless systems will open up an even longer tail for interesting and new types of transactions that just wouldn't make sense today.
Actually, what Garrett is talking about, this can already be done using this dollar on chain, which is this stablecoin, and using Lumino network, which is like the Lightning network, but it allows to trade with stablecoins. So you can do nano payments, you can do micro payments using a digital currency backed by Bitcoin. So it's really, the technology is already there, just firms have to adopt it.
And is there still a fear factor with the people that you talk to that, I always tell people don't mention blockchain. And if you need to mention blockchain, then there's probably something wrong with your solution, because most people don't really care what technology you're running. Like if you told me I could make an investment and it's based on mice running around in a dark room with notes in their mouth, but you make 50% a month, I'd give you money to buy more mice, right? So, so is there still a fear factor, and is that getting in the way? And how do you get through that process?
Well, it's almost as bad as building a hardware company and trying to convince people to build hardware. But I mean, in the end, you just have to show people the money. It's very simple. If I can do something at 10x the cost, the numbers speak for themselves. Medha, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, my take is the same. It's really return on investment, right? They're going to invest a certain amount of time and energy in a solution, and they're going to want to see either they're going to recoup it in operating expenses or in costs or headcount, or they're going to be making more money on the bottom line, right? So if you talk that language, they're going to understand.
I think also, beside the reputational risk, that I think that there is a lot of education needed in the space, even in countries like Argentina, where Bitcoin community is very developed. I think that a lot of the user experience technology that is required is needed. It's really, really early days. I feel that it's like in the early 90s when the mail started. I have it every day with friends who call me, well, you are in Bitcoin, tell me about, I have how I protect myself from inflation in Argentina. And so it's really early days. I live 100% all day in this environment, and for me it's easy. But I have friends with MBAs and running big operations, and the learning curve is quite high. I think we need more time on that.
Right.
I would tend to agree. I mean, that is specifically the problem that we're going after in terms of targeting, the mass number of Web 2 developers that are very familiar with cloud, and making it very easy for them to get started with blockchain technology with all the core capabilities that you would expect in a platform. That is exactly the problem that we are looking to solve with our protocol, is to make it very, very intuitive and obvious for developers, right? We're very developer focused. And we believe if the platform can provide the capabilities that are needed, you can build real applications that are easy for users to use, right? At the protocol layer, you're pretty far down the stack.
Right. So, and are the companies ready for this conversation, Medha? Do they have internal capabilities? Is it scary, for them to contemplate?
I think that there is a lot of fear around blockchain, because I think that they, if they go online and they read about, or even if they were to explore looking at using Ethereum, for example, Solidity developers are hard to find, train, and they're very expensive, right? And they probably will read about the DAO fork, and they'll read stuff about the contracts are immutable and they really can't control it. So what you're seeing is a lot of corporations are investigating blockchain, but they're using private or permissioned blockchains, and they're using blockchains like Hyperledger, right? Hyperledger's got pretty good penetration in the enterprise space. And it's not very good. It's really not a good product. I mean, in all honesty, Hyperledger's done a great job in terms of capturing that space.
I forgot to bleep. I'm trying to get Gordon to bleep all that out.
Yes,
guys, just so you know, my face. Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, "Damn, Medha! All right, you just wow." That censorship chip never got installed or burnt out at some point.
No. You know what? I'm honest to a fault, I'm afraid.
It's great,
Gordon,
James. It's your show, but you have a few more segments. Just tell me what you want to do with timing.
First, I want to know, Gordon, if you know where we can find a good lawyer.
Oh no! Did I just get us in trouble? Did we step in it?
It's okay.
You're not in trouble because you got me. Otherwise,
it's perfectly okay. So, guys, we're have you had any wins yet? Each of you guys, is there anything you can point to right now which is concrete, which would be a case that would attract other people to start to be more inquisitive? Garrett, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I can't announce anything yet, but we're talking to a very large international organization that basically desperately needs contact tracing. So we have the pandemic raging. People need a way to record interactions between people. Smartphones don't work because people don't want to install apps. You really need kind of a custom hardware that records interactions between people and allows you to track if the virus is spreading within your business. Existing technologies like cellular, they're too expensive. You need something like Bluetooth, something that runs on the nodal network. And doing this with what we've built, we're very close to getting some very large customers. So hopefully we can announce something in the next few weeks. But people are finally starting to realize that only through these new decentralized technologies can you hit the price point where you can connect something that normally can never be connected before. You can enable new business cases, get people back to work, whereas before it would be almost impossible.
In our case, I can mention that, yes, that we have a product running since December last year, and we've been organically growing. We have hundreds of users already. People, as I mentioned, there's people selling apartments in Argentina, in Venezuela, protecting from huge inflation using stable coins. And there is also a lot of Bitcoiners using these new tokens to earning more Satoshis. So there is, we started first with users, but also there is already some marketplaces selling, as I mentioned, that these apartments are not by the public, but by firms. So there is already some nice success stories to share.
Okay, and Medha?
Yeah, we are working with some large companies right now. Can't disclose them as yet, but to give a hint, you know, a very large patent registry, right? So we're actually building an implementation to support the creation of a large patent registry, and these guys have ties into all the 200 patent offices, right, worldwide. So building a large patent registry and using a smart contracting platform to basically determine the chain of custody of the patents, you know, is kind of the TLDR for that. And we're also looking at other labor management solutions. So the very interesting use cases emerging in labor management. One of the ones I've indicated, but there's others that I can't talk about as yet, but exciting stuff.
Okay, cool. All right, so I apologize for awkward transition, but we started a little bit late and they're trying to shoehorn us around here right now. So
yeah, I'm the bad guy. James is awesome.
But for the last little piece here, could each of you tell us when your platform you think will start to be live and when people could start to work with you, whether that's now or in the future, and also briefly tell them how to contact you. Garrett, you want to start?
Sure. So anyone can join the Nodal network right now. We have basically the largest wireless network on Earth. You can download Nodal Cash on Android and iOS and actually generate cryptocurrency on your phone by becoming part of the network. We're taking orders for the enterprise contact tracing solution as we speak, and you can contact me at gk@nodal.com.
Manu?
Our platform is available already, as I mentioned before, is www.moneyonchain.com, and everybody can access it. It's you only need a MetaMask wallet and use it, and there is already, as I mentioned, hundreds of people using it all over the world. We don't know where from because it's on the blockchain.
Okay, and Medha?
Yep, casperlabs.io. You can find us on the web, and our product is ready right now. We're going live in Q1 of 2021. Our testnet's live right now, so you can check us out and start building some smart contracts and interact with the Block Explorer.
Thank you all so much, guys. I really appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Always a pleasure.